Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Nitro Dice is a small box racing game, and this is kind of like, I wouldn't say all the rage, but there were quite a few racing games coming out where the dice were important, even from Formula Day to something like Nitro Dice, where the dice are actually the racers, and it kind of dictates the speed, and it kind of works pretty well. Formula Day, you were rolling different dice depending on what gear you were in, and might give you more speed if it was a 20-sided die versus a 6-sided die. In this, you're playing cards to move your dice up, and the dice will kind of tell you what the speed is. Now, this is a slow-moving racing game. Most people want fast racing games that move quick, and you're bustling through the course. This one, you're kind of more lethargic, and you're kind of moving a little bit slower, and it's a little bit more thinking for what is a small little box game. This is one that maybe was playing off the Fast and Furious racing craze or street racing craze that was going on maybe during this time period, but it's not one that really worked for us. I don't particularly like racing games that much. I have quite a few of them, but it's not something that I want the cream of the crop. I'm not looking for mediocre, and here, Nitro Dice, I think it's mediocre. This game could potentially be reworked into something, and if you want a little bit more of what I would call a thinking man's racing game, in a small box, very portable, this might be it. It just wasn't all that appealing to us, so this one will be a purge. Here is Nitro Dice, which is it's supposed to look like a Fast and Furious type racing game, I suppose. You're going to get a rule book, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. Now, the main component of the game are going to be these street cards. You can see some tokens for the Nitro, and you'll have little generic dice that will be in here. But the main component is going to be these dice. They feel fine in the hand. You can see they have different, like red or yellow on them, and they have different backs. They'll be the starting cards of the different characters you're going to have when you're playing through the game. And they're all supposed to have that, I guess, anime look kind of to them, I guess. Have one garage card, and the rest of these will fit fine. You know, they're just races. They're just tracks. They're just the street cars. There's some manholes and stuff on them, but for the most part, they're fairly generic. Here is the rule book. It's real small, or like skinny and long, which is kind of a weird thing. They decided to use the smallest font possible, which is fine. There are some pictures in here. Kind of shows you what setup can be. In the back of the book, you're going to have some other different races you can have. If you want to do that, that's fine. It shows you how to run the race. Everything you need to know is right here. This is how you run the race. And then, obviously, they're going to break it down into more detail with plenty of pictures. And there's examples and things you can look at to kind of understand. So the red will always be the examples of what they're trying to show you in the pictures. And you go through all the different things. There's little headings here that will help keep things organized as you're going through, and then you win the race. Suggestions for setting up your own track if you like to do that kind of thing, and some variants you can utilize here if you want to utilize those manholes, etc. when you're playing the game. The rest are just the tracks. A little bit of information here on the back if you're setting up, preparing to play. Otherwise, it really isn't a cheat sheet, but the game is fairly easy to learn and play. Rulebook is very good. Just the font size is a little small. Each player is going to choose what character they want to be, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's going to flip it over, and you'll be utilizing this. This will be how much damage that you're taking during the game, and as you're tracking it through, when all your damage is done, then you will wreck and end. So that's what this one will do right here. You can set the garage card aside. You don't need it right now, but if you decide you want to go into the garage, which I'll explain in a few minutes, have this card set aside. Then you'll set up. Here's what you'll have as a track. Obviously, yours will be bigger than this. There's different variations that you can have, etc. But this will just be enough for our learning purposes here. You will utilize the dice as your cars as you're going through. So let's say you have a die here. It will be stuck on the 0. Now, you can always move it up at the beginning of a turn by 1, and that will be the speed that you'll be utilizing as you go through. If you want to discard a card from your hand, that's a legal move, and you could move this up a second amount, which will be the speed that you'll be racing at. Whoever has the highest speed or in front of the line, if there's a tie, you'll be able to move your car up that many spaces. If you have a Nitro, you can give this up to move 2 additional spaces on your track. Now, you can change lanes if you want to by discarding a card, and you'll be able to change the lanes if that's something that you want to do. If somebody steps behind you with the same number, then they will move ahead and kind of draft around you. If you want to move diagonal, you can do that by giving up a movement point and getting rid of a card from your hand at the same time. You can reduce your speed if you're going too quick by discarding cards to reduce your speed. That's a legal move. If you happen to run into the person behind you, you will simply stop in your location there. Remember, you can always prevent a collision by discarding a card and simply changing lanes and continuing to move. If you collide with somebody, remember, you're going to take damage for that, so you'll have to decrease your damage. You'll get 1 point of damage for that. So if you were on the 6, you would move down to the 5 by taking that damage. Then it's just really whoever gets around, if you're playing 1 lap or 2, whoever gets the furthest across the finish line will be the winner of the game. That's a quick overview of how you play Nitro Dice. Who should buy this game? Anybody looking for a racing game with kind of hand management and card play. You're not looking for frills or fantastic components necessarily. You're not looking for 3D miniatures in your cars and things of that nature. These are just standard dice, and you're going to be racing on cards. There's like no big track, like a pitch car, something like that. So, you want something that's portable, probably on the relatively cheaper side, and something that's a little bit more thinking approach to it. Nitro Dice might be for you.